This was a real plane crash in the United States. A private jet lost control in the last few minutes before landing. All 18 people on board were killed. What shocked people even more was who was on the plane. These were not ordinary passengers. They were wealthy, high-profile people heading to a birthday party in Aspen. On March 29, 2001, a Gulfstream 3 took off from Los Angeles. Its destination was Aspen, Colorado. The captain had nearly 10,000 flight hours. The first officer had 5,500 hours. On paper, this looked like an experienced crew. That day, a wealthy financier from Miami had chartered the jet for his birthday. He brought 14 friends with him. They were flying to his Aspen mansion for a party. But there was a problem. Aspen Airport has only one runway, and it is surrounded by mountains. Things got worse. Heavy snow was falling that day, and visibility was poor. On top of that, the plane had to land before 7 p.m. because once that cutoff passed, they could not continue the planned approach. They would have to divert to another airport. As the jet got closer to Aspen, air traffic control began guiding it in for the final approach. At that point, the plane only had enough fuel for one more try. If this approach failed, the crew would have to give up and divert right away. Then came another warning sign. A different plane trying to land radioed the tower and said, "We can't see the runway, we're going around." That should have been a clear message. The weather was not good enough for a safe landing. The normal move would have been to prepare for a go-around immediately. But this crew did not give up. They kept pressing forward, hoping the weather might suddenly improve. Instead, the closer they got, the worse the weather became. Air traffic control kept warning them about their altitude and speed. In the final 2 minutes, the crew finished the landing setup. Now came the most important step. They had to see the runway with their own eyes. The tower asked again, "Do you actually have the runway in sight?" The crew answered, "Yes, we have it. Continuing." But a problem showed up almost immediately. After breaking out of the clouds, the jet was off to the right side of the airport. That meant something was very wrong. What they thought they saw might not have been the runway at all. Just before touchdown, the captain suddenly realized something was off and tried to pull the plane back up, but it was too late. The jet rolled sharply, then crashed near the runway. Rescue crews got there quickly, but after searching the wreckage, they confirmed that all 18 people on board were dead. After the crash, the NTSB launched an investigation right away. It did not take long for investigators to rule out mechanical failure. The engines, flight controls, and other key parts showed no major problems before the crash. In other words, the airplane itself was not broken. So what went wrong? After reviewing radar data, investigators found that the jet had already drifted away from the standard approach path in the final stage. When it was still about 6 miles from the airport, it was already below the safe altitude, and it stayed in that danger zone as it kept going. On the surface, two pilots with that much experience should not have made a mistake like this, so investigators kept digging. Soon, one major factor came to light: pressure from the passengers. The flight had already been delayed before takeoff. The captain had warned the coordinator that if they left any later, they might miss Aspen's landing cutoff. When the passenger heard they might have to divert, he got angry. He told his assistant to pass a message along and told the pilots to stop talking about diverting. Later in the flight, the captain even reported that the client cared a lot about arriving on time. Then, 8 minutes before the crash, something even more unbelievable happened. The charter client went straight into the cockpit. At night, in bad weather, right before landing, having someone unrelated enter the cockpit is a huge distraction. The cockpit voice recorder showed that when the client learned they might not land on time, his tone was firm and forceful. That made the crew even less willing to give up. They were already in unsafe conditions, but they kept pushing and kept searching for the runway. Then came the deadliest mistake. The first officer mistook highway lights on the ground for the runway lights. He thought the runway was on the right, but the real runway was actually on the left. By the time the captain realized the mistake, the plane was already too low. There was no room left to recover. Investigators also found that just 2 days before the crash, the FAA had issued an important notice. That notice said this type of approach was not allowed at Aspen at night, and at the time of the crash, it was already 7:02 p.m. That means the landing attempt itself was already against the rules. What makes it even more shocking is this. The first officer had received that notice before takeoff, but that critical warning did not end up preventing the disaster. In the end, the NTSB said the main cause of the crash was that the crew kept descending without actually having the runway clearly in sight. Add in pressure from the client, the captain's failure to go around sooner, and the breakdown in key information, and the result was tragedy. What hits hardest about this crash is that it was not just snow, mountains, and bad weather. It was also time pressure, a demanding client, and the idea that they had to arrive on time no matter what. So what do you think was the biggest cause of this crash? The weather or human pressure?